this morning. Eric obviously comes on this show, great player. I love all Hall of Fame football players. I think there's some good ideas in this, in what he's proposing and what these players are striving for. I don't have a problem with it, but as I told Eric, I would have tried a different path than going immediately to, if we don't get this, we're going to boycott. I feel like they have the NFL over a barrel to some degree. The NFL's got so much bad PR that if they had gone a more direct route to Troy Vincent, to Roger Goodell, to DeMaurice Smith, and if they got rebuked then threaten to boycott. But they've come out really hard, and some of the language in this letter to me is a little over the top. We're not going to celebrate 100 years of exploitation. I'm sitting here with some guys that made a lot of coin and changed some family members' lives because of the NFL. I just don't think it's 100 years of exploitation. That's a little over the top.
Yeah, at the core of what their issue is, I agree with it. In messaging, I found the same that you found from reading this, like the charge that came from it, giving it the historical context, but then bringing in words like challenging and exploitation. When you're talking about the NFL, we know that those boats have risen to a point where they had $17 billion in revenue. And the core of the league and the cream of the league has all benefited from it. So why not the cream of the crop, which is the Hall of Famers? So there needs to be a package that says we market this league universally. And we market you guys at a prime level because you are our best participants. Work that out. I'm not sure, full disclosure, did they try this behind closed doors?
Did not. Well, according to Eric, I asked directly, Eric said no.
This shouldn't be the first strike if you're trying to have a negotiation with someone.
Yeah, well, I like what they're trying to do.
Me too.
And I think it's right on and good for them. Being on the ballot this year, I think it would be a shame to go there and show up and there's nobody there. All my heroes.
I'll be there.
I want to see Shannon Sharp. But it's just like, man, it had to be my year. So I do hope it gets figured out, and I think it should. First of all, they have points. I mean, the NFL's making a lot of money. From what I heard, they're asking for $4 million. Is that what it is to be?
No. That's just health insurance.
Yeah,
that covers all the players. $4 million would.
The Hall of Fame players.
Yeah, Hall of Fame players.
Right. Yes.
Hall of Fame players. And that's kind of where I kind of weigh in a little bit is I absolutely agree with what they're trying to do. But it's so many layers to it because the Hall of Famers, Tony Gonzalez, you're going to always be able to do things. Your name is going to always be able to shine. People are going to always know who you are. And for a lot of the Hall of Famers, that's what it is. They've made a lot of business opportunities and they've had a lot of doors open because they're Hall of Famers. It's those other guys. Like what makes Tony Gonzalez playing 14, 15, 16, 17 years, his hits less than another guy who's a special teams player who doesn't have those doors open for him. You know what I mean? And so I did see Eric Dickerson kind of come back around and say, well, eventually we want to get all players this. But I think right now is the time to say, let's start with all players.
Yeah.
Let's not just start with the Hall of Famers. But yes, the Hall of Famers, they have the voice. They have that stage being at the Hall of Fame, so they can boycott, and that will be perceived as putting your foot on the table. But I just want to see everyone benefit from it because those are the guys who really need it.
Yeah, I get it. Like sometimes you just need a spokesman, you need spokesmen, you need the ones that's going to have the most powerful voice in your message. So I respect that. Kind of reeks, though, of the QB Club, if you guys remember back in the early 90s, where of the Players Association and prime players, quarterbacks, most marketable, they had a subcategory, a different category where their endorsements went through, and they had different revenue streams that all the other players are sitting there saying, hey, like you said, my hits hurt just like your hits as well. But the craziest part about all this is if it works, if they get what they want, it has to be in totality because you have now changed your opponent. If you go at the NFL and say, us, Hall of Famers, what, 280, 300 guys, the Hall of Famers. Then there's the Hall of Gooders. And then there's the Hall of Ides. You know, like guys like me just sitting there like, what about us? Then the NFL is now not the opponent. It's all the other guys like us. And there are more of us than you guys, and you just don't want it to implode.
I want to introduce a couple of more facts. They put out the letter, and Kurt Warner has now put out a statement. His name was attached to the letter. He's put out a statement that the letter went out without him ever reading it, without him signing off on it. He doesn't agree with the threat of a boycott. Jim Trotter of the NFL Network has alluded to, insinuated there are other guys whose names is on this list who didn't sign off on it. And so, again, we go back to the strategy here and was it put together? Because, listen, this is why I agree to some degree with what they're talking about doing. And I argue with former teammates of mine in college and just guys all the time about, hey, man, when you are doing well, you damn sure better look back and help the people that helped you get there.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is where I've been critical of NFL players and NFL leadership across the board, from the commissioner's office to DeMaurice Smith. When the NFL, everybody keeps it, they made $15 billion. That's like me moving to some high-rise apartment on Wilshire Boulevard and then allowing my mother to sit in that same apartment we grew up in. God would look down on me like, are you crazy? And so when the NFL is making $15 billion and they look down and see Deacon Jones and a bunch of other guys struggling, and so I blame the players and ownership. Like, you've been blessed in this kind of way and you're not taking care of the people whose backs you're standing on. That's where I believe, I wish that Eric, because I really like Eric and he's got a big pair. I wish he had reached out and maybe got some help and a better strategy here, because I think they're a little off base in ways that could damage this whole thing.
I don't know if he didn't. I mean, there's a long list of players here, and I'm not going to speak
Some have said they weren't.
I'm not going to speak for Kurt Warner, but I've never heard someone say, I never authorized my signature. Like, dog, if you signed it or you didn't sign it. You said yes or you didn't say yes. I've been in situations, not saying it's this situation, where you say, yeah, I'm in support of this. Yeah, I've come on air and said something. And then you get a step removed and somebody, where you work? What you do? What you say?
Yeah.
And then you're like, I never authorized my signature.
Well, I didn't know exactly what they were going to say, but the gist of the conversation was this.
I don't want to go all the way in on Kirk because he might have a full explanation, but I've been the one to retract something before when in full heart and full mindset, I was in support of that in that moment.
No.
To me, this is something that should be addressed in the next CBA.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is something DeMaurice Smith, the players, should take on. How do we take care of the guys who helped us get here in this spot?
It's a tough one, though. Look, I'm retired, 11 years, and I still have benefit packages that are layered. They get you to certain thresholds, 45. You get your medical reimbursements. You get to 50, 59. Then you get 65. This is going to sound harsh, but they're making strides to take care of us. But in reality, we have to do a better job of taking care of what we get. And the worst thing you could do is give somebody in their 20s everything that they want. Because what happens is you don't have that full appreciation. And now it looks like we're retroactively saying, correct my sins. And that's a tough one, because what is that dollar amount that corrects your sins?
A lot of this, though, I think in their mind, Marcellus, are guys that played before 1993.
Yeah, I was going to say that. A lot of this is the guys who were back in that day.
No free agency.
Yeah, no free agency. And even the way the packages have changed from since I came in the league in 2004. Like, I got eligible for some benefits in like 7, 8, and I'm like, wow, yeah, they retroactive, But I'm thinking, well, what if you were kind of even before that time? So those are the guys who really aren't benefiting from it. But that's a different conversation. Not all of those guys are Hall of Famers either.
Right.
And so I did hear Eric Dickerson say that he felt like they needed a seat at the table. But I don't know if that seat at the table needs to just be Hall of Famers or if that seat at the table needs to be former players, period. And it's a mixture of both.
D'Angelo, I think your point is right. Tony's about to experience this, just to put meat on the bones of what you're saying. When they put that gold jacket on you, they're also saying, you know what, now you can demand $25,000 for a speaking engagement.
Yep.
Now you can demand $20,000 to go to a autograph signing deal. Now you can, those Modelo commercials, they'll have to pay you more for because you're a Hall of Famer and you can wear that Hall of Fame ring. And so it's actually the Brian Coxes, the D'Angelo Halls, the Marcellus Wileys of the older generation that are the generation that doesn't get into the Hall of Fame. they have it a little worse.
Yeah.